Honorable members of the committee, I see a quorum. Honorables membres du comité, je constate
Honorable members of the committee, I see a quorum.
Article 106.
Pursuant to Section 163, I will proceed to the election of chair.
Motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive other types of motion, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debate. Nous pouvons donc procéder à l'élection à la présidente.
We can now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the chair must be a member of the government party. I am ready to receive motions for the chair.
Mr. Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Looking forward to this. I would like to put a motion forward to elect Chris Biddle as our chair.
It has been moved by Mr. Lewis that Mr. Biddle be elected as chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? I will now put the motion to the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare the motion carried and Mr. Biddle duly elected chair of the committee. I invite Mr. Biddle to take the chair.
I'd like to thank the clerk for that seamless election, and to members of the opposition, I'm just as surprised as you are that I'm here. So thank you so much, everyone. Before we continue, I would like to ask all in-person participants to consult the guidelines written on the cards on the table. These measures are in place to help prevent audio feedback and incidents and protect the health and safety of all participants, including interpreters. You also notice a QR code on the card, which links to a short awareness video. If the committee is in agreement, I would like to invite the clerk to proceed with the election of the vice chairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the first vice chair must be a member of the official opposition. I am now prepared to receive motions for the first vice chair.
Madam Clerk, I would like to nominate Michael Cooper.
It has been moved by Mr. Calkins that Mr. Cooper be elected as first vice chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? I will now put the motion to the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare the motion carried and Mr. Cooper duly elected first vice chair of the committee. Conformément à l'article 106.2,
Pursuant to Section 1062, the first vice chair must be a member of the official opposition. I'm now prepared to receive motions for the second vice chair. Madam Clerk, I'd like to move that Christine Normandin become second vice chair. It is moved that Ms. Normandin be elected as second vice chair of the committee. Are there any other further motions? I will now submit the motion to the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare the motion carried and Christine Normandin duly elected second vice chair of the committee.
Thank you so much, everyone. Congratulations, félicitations to the vice chairs. Typically, we proceed to proceed to the routine motions. Looking for to the committee, Madame Kayabaga, if you'd.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start by welcoming my colleagues. My first time on this committee. Very excited to go through this learning experience, and congratulations to you, Chair. I would like to propose a routine motion. So I'm going to read it in, if that's okay with you, Chair. That the 3 whips be delegated the authority to act. Sorry. Just a second. I think I have the older version. Let me just get the version that everybody else has. I think you might have received it by email. So it reads as the 3 whips be delegated the authority to act as the striking committee pursuant to Standing Orders 104, 113, and 114, and that they be authorized to present to the chair no later than 12 p.m. on Friday, June the 13th, 2025, in a report signed by all 3 whips or their representatives, their unanimous recommendations for presentation to the House on behalf of the committee. And I think you do have the French version as well.
We do. Is there any debate on the motion? Mr. Calkins?
Thank you, Chair. I was kind of expecting that we would deal with the regular, predictable routine motions first, but we can start on page 7. I'm wondering if my colleagues across the way who moved the delegation of the authority of the whips would support an amendment where we would amend it by adding the following, Mr. Chair. Provided that the recommendations for the report referred to in paragraph B of the order adopted by the House on Thursday, June 5th, 2025, shall be presented to the Chair no later than 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 12th, 2025, and that the Chair shall be instructed to present the report to the House no later than Friday, June 13th, 2025.
One moment. Mr. Calkins, do you have that written or in an electronic version that you can send to the clerk?
Boy, I sure hope so.
So basically, he's changing the dates, so it's to submit.
If we can just briefly suspend for a second, Mr. Chair, while we get that to you digitally.
I think that's an excellent idea. We'll suspend for 5 minutes. been some discussions. I'm not sure where we're at. Mr. Calkins, perhaps if you can read it in again much more slowly, because I understand there is not a French version of this amendment in an
Certainly.
electronic version.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I will go slow so that simultaneous translation should be able to provide the French version as I read in English. That the motion be amended by adding the following. Provided that the recommendations for the report referred to in paragraph B of the order adopted by the House on Thursday, June 5, 2025, shall be presented to the Chair no later than 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 12, 2025, and that the Chair shall be instructed to present the report to the House no later than Friday, June 13, 2025.
Is everyone clear on motion? Mr. Fergus? Or sorry, Mr. Calkins, were you finished? I apologize, Mr. Fergus.
Well, I normally would appreciate an opportunity to speak to the
that's why I came back to you,
proposed
Mr.
amendment.
Fergus.
I think everybody understands what the amendment is attempting to do, so I won't belabor the issue other than just saying this provides a little bit of rigor on the timeline so that the committees of this House can be assembled and struck in a timeline that I think every member of this committee can support. Thank you.
Mr. Fergus?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, puis je remercie
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to thank my colleague, Mr. Calkins, with whom I've had the pleasure of serving on other committees. When it comes to the content of his proposal I have no issues, but as a member for Quebec, as a Francophone, I'd like to emphasize how important it is when you want to move a motion, it must be available in writing in both official languages. It is a courtesy, and it's very important for members, especially for those who do not speak the other official language. I can imagine that if it was done the other way around, it would create a lot of friction. So it's very important. It's okay this time around. I can accept it, but please, I ask that you make sure that you have the documents available in both languages in future. Thanks.
One moment.
The committee and ask if it's adopted or not.
Put the amendment to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment? It's okay. It's carried. The motion is amended is carried. Oh, sorry.
Motion is amended?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, motion is amended, carried. Or sorry, yes, so. I'm new to, the amendment is carried. All those in favor of the amended motion? Any opposed? Carried. There we go.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to read my next motion that pursuant to Standing Order 91.11, the Subcommittee on Private Members' Business be composed of one member from each recognized party and a chair from the government party, and that name of member be appointed chair of the subcommittee. Sorry, was that you? Should I read your name? Chris Biddle? Apologies. First time doing this. On peut rajouter son nom.
suspend for one moment, please. Anything further, or? No?
Okay. Désolé. Okay. That pursuant to Standing Order 91.11, the subcommittee on private members' business be composed of one member from each recognized party and a chair from the government party, and that name be Elizabeth Briere, be appointed chair of the subcommittee.
Okay. Any debate on the, seeing none? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried. Ms. Kaibaga?
Thank you, Chair. I'll read the next motion, that the committee retain as needed and at the discretion of the chair the services of one or more analysts from the Library of Parliament to assist in its work.
Any debate on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? And the analysts, more than welcome to come up. We definitely need their support. I know it says may need the support, but as needed, it's always needed. So welcome back. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Kaibaga.
Thank you, Chair. I'll proceed with the next motion, that the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure be established and be composed of 4 members of the Chair and 1 member from each recognized party as designated by each party's whip, and that the subcommittee work in a spirit of collaboration.
Thank you very much. Any debate? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Ms. Kaibaga.
Thank you, Chair. I'll also move another motion on meeting without a quorum, that the Chair be authorized to hold meetings to receive evidence and to have that evidence published when a quorum is not present, provided that at least 4 members are present, including 2 members of the opposition parties and 2 members of the government party.
Any debate? That's all right. On consent?
On consent.
Excellent. Carried.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I have another motion to read in on travel. That when traveling outside the parliamentary precinct, A, the meeting began after 15 minutes, regardless of whether quorum is present. B, no substantive motion may be moved during such meetings.
Agreed. On consent? Carried.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Thank you. This is on time for opening remarks and questioning of witnesses. That witnesses be given 5 minutes of their opening statements. That whenever possible, witnesses provide the committee with their opening statements 72 hours in advance. That at the direction of the chair during the question of witnesses, there be allocated 6 minutes for their first questionnaire of each party as follows. Round 1, Conservative Party, Liberal Party, Bloc Québécois. For the second, the subsequent rounds, the order and time for questioning be as follows. Conservative Party, 5 minutes. Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Bloc Québécois, 2.5 minutes. Conservative Party, 5 minutes. Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Okay.
Any, Mr. Calkins?
Not to be a stickler, but I do believe Madame Carabaga, I'm sorry, my apologies, said a direction instead of discretion when she was reading it. I just want to make sure that it follows the text that I've got here at the discretion.
Yeah. Ben, je vais lire en français là, parce que c'est.
So we're
Ouais,
we're
ça
all
va.
good with the languages.
Oh, oui.
Alors, je vais le lire en français. I'll read it in French.
I think it was just a verbal typo. But the word I heard was direction, and the text that I have is discretion, and I want to make sure which word we're agreeing to.
I said discretion. Maybe my accent didn't catch up, but discretion.
Does that clarify things to your satisfaction, Mr. Calkins? Yes. Excellent. Any further debate? Seeing none, is all those in favor? Seeing no opposition, carried. Go ahead.
Donc, je continue en français. Distribution
I'll
de.
continue in French. Distribution of documents. That only the clerk of the committee be authorized to distribute documents to members of the committee, and only when the documents are in both official languages, and that all documents submitted to the committee in both official languages that do not come from a federal department, members' offices, or that have not been translated by the Translation Bureau be sent for linguistic review by the Translation Bureau before being distributed to members, and that the witnesses be advised accordingly.
Motion? Agreed. On consent? Excellent. Carried.
Sur le repos de travail, que le greffier du comité
On working meals, that the clerk of the committee, at the discretion of the chair, be authorized to make the necessary arrangements to provide working meals for the committee and its subcommittees.
Any debate on this? Seeing none, do we have consent to proceed? On consent, carried.
sur les frais de déplacement et séjour de.
On travel, accommodation, living expenses of witnesses, that if requested, reasonable travel, accommodation, and living expenses be reimbursed to witnesses not exceeding 2 representatives per organization, and that in exceptional circumstances, payment for more representatives be made at the discretion of the chair.
Any debate? Agreed? You took your glasses off. I was concerned, Mr. Calkins, that on consent? Carried.
Je continue.
Please continue.
Accès aux réunions à huis clos.
Access to in-camera meetings, that unless otherwise ordered, each committee member be allowed to be accompanied by 1 staff member at in-camera meetings, and that 1 additional person from each House officer's office be allowed to be present. Ms. Normandin. Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a proposal for something to add. I believe that the clerk already shared our text.
Alors, je vous en fais la lecture. C'est un ajout.
And so I will read what I have added to that paragraph. That during in-camera meetings, committee members may be informed by the committee chair of the MPs who've been designated as substitutes for permanent members in order to know which MPs are authorized to speak and vote during committee meetings. That only those who have been recognized and identified as such be authorized to speak, in keeping with the usual agreed rules of order and decorum. Thank you.
J'ai juste une petite question.
Just a quick question. When there are replacements that occur during the meeting, would this addition stop them from being replaced because they have obligations elsewhere? The way it's drafted doesn't stop that possibility. We just need to know which members have the right to speak when there's a substitution, so that there are no changes that happen without notice. There might be people online and in person, and we may not know who is subbing in for somebody else, so we want to know who has the right to speak through the chair. So it doesn't stop anyone from being replaced. It's just a question of knowing who has a right to speak.
Is the text that she's offering replacing, or is it in addition to the existing text?
C'est une addition.
It's something that is being added.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with it per se. I just don't recall this committee ever having trouble, or the chair of the committee ever having trouble of knowing who the substituted members are for purposes of voting and being eligible to speak at the committee. But if this is a problem that we're expecting to have to deal with, then I can certainly support it. I don't know what the actual problem is.
Pour répondre à la question de mon collègue,
To answer my colleague's question, it is in response to a situation where several members connected to the meeting simultaneously, and at that time we didn't know who had the right to vote, who had the right to speak, because the information had not been communicated. So there were too many members for a specific party, and we didn't know who had the right to speak.
Est-il possible, Madame Normandin, que
Ms. Normandin, could we ask the clerk to inform us every time there's a substitute? Or will the clerk ask the chair to make a short intervention to announce that? Well, our motion says that it will be the chair, but whether it's the clerk or the chair, I am open to a friendly modification here, a friendly amendment.
I would wonder if you or through the clerk could advise me of what the standing orders and what the rules and procedures actually are. It's one thing to be able to vote at a committee, and I don't know if those rules are exactly the same for being able to speak or ask questions at the committee. In the past, members of the House of Commons have been allowed to attend various committee meetings, even as independent members or members without official party status, in order to ask questions of witnesses. And we've had, I guess, maybe agreements, unwritten agreements, in order to be allowed to do that. But I'm seeking clarification. If the rules about being able to question witnesses or take the floor are the same as the rules when it comes to being able to vote on a question put before the committee.
Go to get you that information if we go to Madame Normandin first.
peut-être si ça peut ajouter,
If this can help you study this proposal, it only applies to in-camera meetings where there's a limited number of people admitted to the meeting. It's also to help us keep a record of who's present. So for regular meetings that are not in camera, our proposal would not apply.
would like a couple minutes to discuss?
Because we would normally ask non-members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to seek clarification on the scope of this amendment. Standing Order 119 provides that a member, if recognized by the chair, can speak at committee. Even if they're not a member of the committee, they would not be able to vote. You indicated this would apply to in-camera meetings, but for example, if we convened as a committee, as a whole committee, and a motion was moved to move in camera, would this amendment apply such that only members or official substitute members would be able to speak? Because that would seem to infringe upon Standing Order 119.
Ma compréhension de la motion, c'est qu'elle n'empêche pas
My
des...
understanding of the motion is that it does not stop members from speaking. We only ask that they be identified so that all the other members of the committee are aware of who is a substitute member. So there's no stopping people speaking. We're only asking for the communication of the information on who is eligible to speak.
So just so that we're on the same side, because I think what you're just to clarify it, because on one hand you're saying anyone can speak, but in the writing of the motion, you're saying only those authorized to speak. Is that running counter to your interpretation of the motion? And will we run into problems moving forward?
En fait, dans la mesure où il y a un certain nombre...
Well, if there are a certain number of members who can be present at the committee, by extension, we can't have 40 people from one party sitting at the table authorized to speak at the same time. So it's not a violation of parliamentary privilege. We know there have to be 5 Liberals, including the chair, 4 Conservatives, and 1 bloc member. It's not a violation of parliamentary privilege. The motion just says that if there's a substitution, we have to be informed of the fact. It is not a way of blocking a member from speaking. It's just a way of informing the members of the committee about who has the authority to speak pursuant to the orders.
Fergus, with your hand up, and I've seen circumstances in which one side of the table may be full of members and different people speaking at any given time, points of order, and that type of thing. Are you saying that we keep the certain number of individuals at the table and they can sub out as needed, but we're always aware of who's... That's the purpose of motion. Okay. Mr. Fergus.
Merci pour cette clarification.
Thank you for clarifying this, Ms. Normandin. I think this is just common sense, and I support your amendment.
That's what
sorry.
they want, that's what they want.
Any further debate on the issue? Seeing none? Or any further debate? Mr. Cooper, I see Mr. Culkins is... Mr. Cooper? You
I'm just still not entirely clear with how the implications of this amendment vis-a-vis Standing Order 119. So could Madame Normandin perhaps provide, maybe address that? And I realize it's a bit of a technical point, so perhaps I invite the analysts to just address my concern that this amendment could conflict with Standing Order 119.
a moment. Cooper, in answer to your question, Standing Order 119 only applies to public meetings. So any further debate on the issue? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Okay, are you, okay, because I need raised hands or.
All the-
Okay.
Carried.
Okay. So on va rajouter ça.
Madame Kaibaga?
Maintenant, on va passer à transcription des réunions à huis clos.
And now we're going to move to transcripts of in-camera meetings. That one copy of the transcript of each.
Amendment has carried. All those in favor of the motion as amended, please put up your hand. Carried. My apologies. I'll figure this out eventually. That's
ça va.
day one problems.
Oui.
Sorry. My apologies,
You're
Madame
doing
Kaibaga.
fine, Chair. It's your first day. Thank you. Qu'une copie de la transcription de chaque réunion à huis clos.
That one copy of the transcript of each in-camera meeting be securely retained by the committee clerk for consultation by members of the committee or by their staff, and that the analysts assigned to the committee have access to the in-camera transcripts.
Agreed on consent. Carried. Madame Kaibaga?
Oui, je continue. Donc,
Yes, I'll continue.
48-hour notice, interpreted as 2 nights, be required for any substantive motion to be moved in committee unless the substantive motion relates directly to business then under consideration, provided that A, the notice be filed with the clerk of the committee no later than 4 p.m. from Monday to Thursday and no later than 2:30 p.m. on Friday. B, the motion be distributed to members and the offices of the whips of each recognized party in both official languages by the clerk on the same day the said notice was transmitted if it was received no later than the deadline hour. C, notices received after the deadline hour or non-business days be deemed to have been received during the next business day.
Thank you so much. Any debate? Agreed on consent? Excellent. Carried. Please keep going.
Orders of reference from the House respecting bills, that in relation to orders of reference from the House respecting bills, A, the clerk of the committee shall, upon the committee receiving such an order of reference, write to each member who is not a member of a caucus represented on the committee to invite those members to file with the clerk of the committee in both official languages any amendments to the bill, which is the subject of the said order, which they would suggest that the committee consider. B, suggested amendments filed pursuant to paragraph A at least 48 hours prior to the start of clause-by-clause consideration of the bill to which the amendments relate shall be deemed to be proposed during the said consideration, provided that the committee may, by motion, vary this deadline in respect of a given bill. And C, during the clause-by-clause consideration, the chair shall allow a member who filed suggested amendments pursuant to paragraph A an opportunity to make a brief representation in support of them.
Any debate? Seeing none, are we in agreement on this one? On consent? Carried.
Technical tests for witnesses, that the clerk inform each witness who is to appear before the committee that the House Administration Support Team must conduct technical tests to check the connectivity and the equipment used to ensure that the best possible sound quality, and the chair advised the committee at the start of each meeting of any witness who did not perform the required technical tests.
Agreed. On
My
consent?
final one.
Carried. Please continue.
This is my final one. WIP's access to the digital binders, that the clerk of the committee be authorized to grant access to the committee's digital binder to the offices of the WIPs of each recognized party.
All good. I see thumbs up on consent. Carried. Wonderful. Madame Briere.
It's for the next step.
For the next step?
Yeah.
Okay. What step?
I would like to present some motions.
Go ahead.
OK. Que conformément à l'article 108,
That pursuant to Standing Order 108-3A6, the committee undertake a study of the changes that need to be made in the implementation of the electoral process and the application of the Canada Elections Act. The interpreter does not have the motion in the booth.
8.3AE.
Sorry, do we have a copy of that, the first motion? If we can suspend for a moment and we can get a
Okay,
copy.
perfect.
Thank you. go back and just clarify. These are in fact notices of motion. But I think if I have the committee's indulgence, go back to routine proceedings. If everyone's all right, okay with that, we can proceed back to that. Madame Normandin, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Allant d'eau
Thank
de-
you. If you flip over our previous motion, there's another proposal for a routine motion, which goes as follows. That during meetings, the chair, if necessary, uses his prerogative to suspend the meeting to maintain the order and decorum necessary to ensure the application of the House of Commons policies on workplace health and safety.
Any debate on the motion? Mr. Fergus.
Encore une fois, j'aimerais juste saluer Madame
Once
Normandin.
again, I just want to congratulate Ms. Normandin for moving this motion. I think it's very important to protect the health and safety of everyone, including our essential services like our interpreters. We want to make sure that nothing bad happens in the House of Commons. So, congratulations.
Mr. Jackson, my apologies.
No, thank you, Chair, and very proud and honored to be on this committee. Just a couple of questions in terms of the scope of how far this would go. Obviously, we want to protect our translators and the important work that they do. But in terms of what types of examples would the chair in that instance be able to suspend a meeting? What would it take, for that drastic action to be taken by the chair in terms of ending or shutting down a meeting based on what somebody is doing with one of their microphones? So just trying to get a handle on how much power this would give the chair in terms of scope.
Well, I'll turn it over to Madame Normandin in 1 second. It is her motion, not mine. The only suggestion I have, because you are new and just to protect the interpreters, we do have this inclination to lean into the mics. It sounds like you're like me and volume usually isn't a problem, so you can stay back and the microphone will pick it up. But Madame Normandin, s'il vous plaît.
La motion vient d'exemples qu'on a.
The motion follows real-life examples where it happened that many people were speaking over each other and the interpreters said they couldn't interpret anymore. There was a health and safety issue because there was too much noise at the same time and they couldn't do their jobs. Of course, the chair keeps his prerogative of suspending the meeting. We're not talking about adjournment, but just suspension. It's just a reminder that the chair can suspend the meeting in a context where we're looking at health and safety. The chair may not have felt like he had the legitimacy to do so in the past, so of course the chair maintains his prerogative, and it's simply a reminder that the chair can suspend the meeting, including for health and safety in the workplace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I support the spirit by which this motion has been brought forward. The only issue I take is with respect to the example that Madame Normandin cited, which is a situation where there could be some back and forth between members, more than one member speaking at a time. This does happen from time to time in committee, and it is true that it does imperil the ability of translators and interpreters to translate, but it doesn't imperil their health and safety, at least as far as I understand what the Translation Bureau has stated on this.
Madame Normandin, s'il vous plaît.
À tout le moins, si les interprètes.
Well, at the very least, if interpreters are no longer able to interpret, it is a violation of parliamentary privilege to not have access to the interpretation. It could have been added to the motion, but in any case, there's an issue when interpreters are unable to interpret, whether it's for decorum reasons or health and safety reasons, I wouldn't want us to have to ask interpreters every single time, does your health and safety allow you to continue? That puts a lot of pressure on them. They do an exceptional job, and often they interpret in extremely difficult circumstances, and it's only when they've reached their absolute limit that they let us know. So the goal is to protect their health and safety and to make sure the chair feels that it's legitimate to suspend the meeting in these circumstances.
Raison que Madame Normandin avait su.
Yes, I support the motion. I'd go even further. I had the privilege of being the Speaker of the House, and one of my roles was to be the administrator of our employees, and I can assure Mr. Cooper that there have been incidents where interpreters' health was endangered. Their tools are their ears, and we have to respect them. In addition, it will allow us to have a calmer and healthier debate, which I think is to the advantage of all members. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Thanks, Chair. I've got a bit of a grammar question. But if we need to finish this part of the conversation first, or if we can move on, in the English version, my understanding, Chair, is that this would apply to all committees or just ours? Or just ours? Okay. Sorry, maybe this is just for our committee? Okay, then
Just for our committee.
I take it back. Thank you. It was his or her prerogative, I thought, but I thought it was other committees. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further debate, all those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried. And now we'll move. I'll turn the floor back to Madame Briere, just to confirm this is putting a notice, or this is putting a motion on notice. Okay, please continue.
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, please, just for sake of this all lining up.
Okay. Que conformément à l'article
That pursuant to Standing Order 108.3AI, the committee direct the clerk of the committee to invite the officials responsible for the long-term vision and planning and center block rehabilitation to brief members on current plans and progress.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
Are we, this is just for notices? I can also put a motion? Okay, thank you. Would like to table a motion that says that pursuant to Standing Order 108.3A, subsection 3, the committee direct the clerk the committee direct the clerk of the
Apologize to Mr. Lewis. Are these notices of motion that are being
They
put,
are.
or are
Yes,
these motions being put
just
forward?
notices.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Please continue, Mr. Lewis.
Well, I appreciate my colleague's clarification. I'll start again. That pursuant to Standing Order 108.3A, subsection III, the committee direct the clerk of the committee to invite officials from both the House of Commons and the Parliamentary Protective Service to provide a briefing on security risks, updates, and other issues to members, and that this briefing, or parts of it, be done in camera should officials recommend.
Thank you so much. The clerk will be sending an electronic version of this. I know we do have a copy, but we'll have a more formal notice provided tomorrow. Mr. Fergus?
à mon tour de présenter aussi
And my turn to put notice of motion forward that pursuant to Standing Order 108.3AI, the committee direct the clerk of the committee to invite the Speaker and House officials for an update on the House and its related matters.
Much. Any further business? Madame Normazelle?
J'aimerais
I would like to move that we debate the following motion. It's a motion that has to do with the 45th general election, which goes as follows. Have we circulated copies? I understand that you have a copy already.
Thank you so much, everyone. So at the moment, we're not in committee business. I am a mere servant of the committee. What the committee decides is up to them in terms of moving to that point or seeking unanimous consent to go there. We are not at a point of foregoing the 48 hours notice. Should the committee wish to go there, I see Mr. Culkin's look. I've given that look to chairs many times. Maybe not quite that aggressively, Mr. Culkins, but I've been in that moment. So the other item that I notified Madame Normandin about is that we do not have resources past 5:30 is the other side of this. My suggestion is, and again, this is how everyone decides, if everyone has motions they want to put forward, we can do that now and either have a committee business or subcommittee meeting next and continue going forward based on that. But I leave it in your hands. And Madame Normandin, you have the floor. If you wish to provide notice, please go ahead, but I'll rule that you can't move your motion right now unless we move into committee business.
J'aurais tendance à proposer de nous...
I think we should move to committee business so that we can debate the motion. But if other members want to provide notice for motions, I would be happy to let them take my place at this time and then afterwards move to committee business.
So I appreciate the hypothetical, but if does anyone else wish to provide notice of a motion? Absent that, I will go back to Madame Normandin's call to move to committee business. Does anyone wish to provide a notice of motion? Seeing none, going back to Madame Normandin.
Alors, je propose qu'on utilise les 35 minutes.
So I move that we use the 32 minutes left to discuss the motion if we can move to committee business.
Item, all those in favor? All those opposed? It passes. Carried.
Je vais faire la lecture parce que la motion a
So I will read the motion. It's been distributed, but I hadn't read it yet. Here it goes. That pursuant to Standing Order 108-3A6, the committee undertake a study.
Committee business, Mr. Chair, should we not go into huis clos?
That's a good point. One moment, please. We're in committee business.
No, we don't.
Not necessarily. If that's a motion that you wish to move later, Madame Normandin has the floor, but not necessarily something that automatically happens, and then we would have to reset. So, thank you.
À tout événement, je vais terminer la lecture.
In any case, I'll finish reading the motion since it hadn't been read for the recording. So here it is. That pursuant to Standing Order 108-3A6, the committee undertake a study of the changes that need to be made in the implementation of the electoral process and the application of the Canada Elections Act in order to prevent the failures and breaches that occurred during the 45th general election, and that this study include, but not be limited to, the incidents that have already been made public, provided that, in the order listed, the committee invite the following witnesses to testify for a period of 2 hours per block of witnesses. A. representatives of each of the political parties who wish to speak on this subject. B, electors or representatives of elector groups. C, the Chief Executive Officer of Elections Canada. And D, any other witnesses the committee deems relevant. That the committee report its recommendations, observations to the House. There's a typo there. That the committee report its observations and recommendations to the House.
Thank you so much. I saw Mr. Fergus, then Mr. Culkins.
No, please.
Oh, sorry,
I'll
Mr.
seek
Culkins.
response.
Chair, and I want to thank my colleague from the Bloc Québécois for moving this motion. I certainly, from my first glance at the text, understand what the intent is here. I will be supporting this motion, Mr. Chair, and I'm just wondering if my colleague who moved the motion could give us any information about what her expected timeline is, or if she would like to have a date for this recommendation to be sent back to the House. Does she have some deadlines or I would just like to get a sense from her of the timeline that she would like to have this done in.
Évidemment, l'agenda dépendra.
Well, of course, the timeline will depend on the availability of the witnesses. I think the CEO of Elections Canada is an essential witness, but if we can send an invitation in the next few meetings, in terms of the rest of the timeline, then it will depend on the availability of the witnesses. And it's, of course, up to each party to decide if they want to send a representative. So there is a portion of this that is that I don't know yet when it comes to establishing the timeline. And if I can add something, if the committee votes in favor of the motion, we can ask our analysts to start working on this over the summer. I can see them smiling. And so they could work on it so that we're ready to go in the fall.
If I may, and it's just about how then we would go forward. Subsection B, electors or representatives of elector groups. That seems to encompass a lot of Canadians, whereas the rest of the representatives of political parties and the chief electoral officer is very specific. This is very broad, and I don't know how we would interpret that in terms of timing and witnesses and having an estimate of what that looks like. And who will the clerk will invite?
Effectivement, c'est qu'on a certaines idées en tête en
Yes, well, we had some ideas in mind when we drafted the motion, but we didn't want to limit ourselves because there may be incidents that happen during the campaign that we are unaware of as to now. But I'm thinking, for example, of Indigenous communities that were not able to vote in some ridings because the voting places were closed. So once this is announced, interested parties could contact us and then we could decide. But obviously, this part of the study would last 2 hours. So if there are 1, 2, or 3 or 4 groups present, that would be enough to fill up the 2 hours.
I understand what you're looking at, but doesn't Clause D address that concern if you perhaps have concern about Indigenous voters or any particular group, that the parties would then supply that list rather than... I'm just trying to, I don't, not leave it too vague for the clerk to have to try to interpret what this looks like. And in terms of a timeline, what are we looking at? was.
Effectivement, je pense que la portion D
Yes, indeed. I think subsection D does include what we had in mind for B. So I would definitely welcome an amendment because the committee's intention would be known through our discussions.
Madame Kayabaga.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to actually move an amendment to her motion. So it reads as that pursuant to Standing Order 108.3 AV, the committee undertake a study of the changes that need to be made in the implementation and interpretation of the electoral process and the application of the Canada Elections Act when casting a ballot in a federal election, and that this study include, but not limited to, the incidents that have already been made public, provided that in the order listed to the committee invite the following witnesses. A, representatives of each political parties who wish to speak on this subject. I'm going to skip B for now, but I'll go to C. Chief Executive Officer of Elections Canada, and D, any other witnesses the committee deems relevant, and that the committee report its recommendations, observations, and recommendations to the House.
I'll ask you to repeat it again, but just in terms of clarification,
I'll just say I added basically after implementations and interpretation, and then after Elections Act, when casting a ballot in a federal election, and I striked out in order to prevent the failures and breaches that occurred during the 45th general election, and I skipped B as a clause.
So you skipped B as a clause, as you're deleting B as a clause?
Just for discussion. Yeah.
Yes, okay, and deleting B. So debate on the amendment, Madame Normandin.
il y a plusieurs aspects, je vais essayer de les prendre
There are several things to say. I'll take them in order. So in terms of removing B, I see that as a friendly amendment, and I agree to it. For adding and interpretation, I see that also as a friendly amendment. Interpretation is necessary to implement the act, so I have no issue with that. However, I am against the proposal that says we should strike in order to prevent the failures that took place during the 45th general election, because we already know that there were issues. So that is important in terms of the study's objective. So I would be against that specific amendment.
Mr. Calkins? Oh, sorry. Mr. Calkins, then we'll go to Madame Kayabaga.
Do I have the floor, Chair? Okay, thank you. I appreciate Ms. Normandin's acceptance of the three changes that are proposed in the amendment by Ms. Kayabaga. So there's three, and Madame Normandin, I understand that you considered two of them to be friendly amendments. I just wanted to state for the record that I actually would like it, even though it's your motion, Madame Normandin, if we kept the electors or representatives electorate groups item B actually in the list. And my rationale for suggesting that would be that it's not the witnesses come before this committee in a couple of ways. The most common way, of course, is when we as members of Parliament and our various political parties submit witness lists to the clerk of the committee. But it's also perfectly acceptable for everyday ordinary Canadians, once they find out that a study has been undertaken by a committee, to submit written briefs that they want submitted as part of the study, or it's even quite frankly, acceptable for them to request to the clerk that they would like to physically appear, either in person or virtually before the committee. And by removing Section B, it might, I think, deter people who would not otherwise understand that they would be entitled to do the same thing under item D, any other witnesses the committee deems relevant. The way that reads is that, the way I would interpret D, if I was reading this as an everyday citizen of Canada, that any other witness the committee deems relevant means the ones that only the committee would take under consideration, whereas I would interpret item B to be, I'm invited as an elector or a representative of an elector group to make a case before the committee. Therefore, I would strongly recommend that item B be left in the language of the original motion. I have no problem with the "and interpretation" addition to the motion, but I do believe that the other proposal by Madam Carabaya would be, when casting a ballot, would significantly limit the scope of the study to a point where I think items that would be important to Canadians would be missed. So I would encourage colleagues at the table to keep that in mind when deciding on how to vote for this amendment. I would not be in support of that particular change. Those two changes, I am in support of the one proposed change.
I appreciate that. And again, at the committee's discretion, we are, if you wish to open it that wide in terms of what the committee will receive, that is the decision of the committee. Madame Kayabaga and then Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, I realize now that I would have to sub-amend, but my intention was not to remove B. It was because there was still conversation whether the clerk is in the possibility of doing this or not. I wanted to wait for that discussion to end, but maybe I can move a sub-amendment to put back B since it's been moved to be removed. Does that make sense?
Perhaps we can do it on unanimous consent.
Yeah.
I understand Mr. Cooper still wishes to speak, but if we can do it on unanimous consent, because based on what Mr. Calkins,
Yeah.
Madame Normandin, and Madame Kayabaga are saying, we're in agreement. So
Yes.
to keep the first 2 points that
Chair,
Madame...
is the unanimous consent to keep B?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
I was going
in
to,
favor.
the first 2 points, to keep the first 2 points, but then leave in clause B. So on consent, okay, that amendment is carried.
Well, okay. So
Sorry.
now- okay, that's okay. So now putting.
Mr. Cooper, you wish to speak to the amendment? You're good for now? Excellent. We'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Or sorry, Madame Normandin, you wish to speak? Excellent. Sorry, please go ahead.
En fait, j'ai juste simplement besoin de clarifier.
I just need a clarification. What are we voting on? Because the amendment is in 2 parts. So are we voting on the amendment as a whole? If that is the case, I would suggest that we divide it into 2 and then vote on each section of the amendment. So the amendment aims to add "and the interpretation" and then eliminate one section and replace it with something else. So there are 2 sections to the amendment.
This all at once, I don't know in terms of... Madame Kayabaga, could you reread the amendment, or reread the motion as amended, please?
Okay, yep. The full text?
Yes, please.
Okay. That pursuing to Standing Order 108, 3AV, the committee undertake a study of the changes that need to be made in the implementation and interpretation of the electoral process and the application of the Canada Elections Act when casting a ballot in a federal election in order to prevent the failures and breaches that occurred we're striking that part, when casting a ballot in a federal election, and then we're going to, and that this study, are we good? This study include, but not limited to, the incidents that have already been made public, provided that in the order listed, the committee invite the following witnesses to testify for a period of 2 hours per block of witnesses. A, representative of each of the political parties who wish to speak on the subject. B, electors or representatives of elector groups. C, the Chief Executive Officer of Elections Canada. And D, any other witnesses the committee deems relevant, that the committee report its recommendations, observations, and recommendations to the House.
It's just one point, just clarification, is the Chief Electoral Officer? Chief Executive.
Chief Electoral, Officer.
I think it's just a translation
Yeah.
issue, but not a problem. Okay. Mr. Trigger, any further debate on the subject?
Monsieur le Président, est-ce qu'on peut prendre 2 minutes juste pour...
Mr. Chair, can we take a couple of minutes just to look at all of that together, please?
There seems to be some good discussion. I hope that continues. I was clear that we don't have resources after 5:30, so I'll be adjourning the committee to the call of the chair.